In this video, let's take a closer look at Final Fantasy VII Remake versus the original Final Fantasy VII, specifically at the character of Sephiroth. There will be spoilers ahead, so please be aware. Let's get on. In the original Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth does not appear in the Midgar portion of the game. He does not make an appearance until the group leaves Midgar. They travel to Kalm and they gather at the town inn. Barret asks Cloud to tell his story about Sephiroth and the crisis of the planet. Cloud then begins to tell his story and how he joined Soldier because he wanted to be like Sephiroth. And after working together on several missions, the two of them became friends. They do make a point that Tifa is noticeably quiet as he tells his story, or his version of the story rather. As Cloud goes on to tell his story, it triggers the Nibelheim flashback. And this, as far as I remember, is the first on-screen appearance of Sephiroth in the original Final Fantasy VII. And when I say quote-unquote Sephiroth, I mean the physical appearance that looks like Sephiroth, regardless of whether that is actually Sephiroth or Genova's body. But in Final Fantasy VII Remake, Sephiroth appears earlier, in the Midgar portion of the game. In fact, he appears very early in the game, in Chapter 2, Fateful Encounters. After the Mako Reactor 1 bombing, Avalanche along with Cloud make their way to Sector 8. The group separates and they plan to meet back up on the train, but on the way there, Cloud experiences a hallucination. In response to seeing buildings and windows on fire, it reminds him of when Sephiroth destroyed his hometown of Nibelheim, and eventually sets the town on fire. The scene in Remake has similar elements to the Nibelheim flashback in the original Final Fantasy VII, but they are distinctly different. In the original game, Cloud is surrounded by his friends, protected, safe, in a sense of calm, if you will. But in Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cloud is by himself. He escapes the turmoil of the Mako Reactor 1 bombing, he's walking by himself, and he sees a vision of the man who haunts his past. Cloud is vulnerable and out in the open, surrounded by no one. Before he knows it, Cloud finds himself back in Nibelheim, with the town on fire, as he struggles to slowly chase after Sephiroth. When Cloud finally catches up to him, he tells Sephiroth that
"You're not real,"
and that he killed him. And Sephiroth responds smugly by saying,
"It was the crowning moment of our time together."
Sephiroth tells Cloud to
"Run away. You have to leave. You have to live."
When Cloud attempts to strike Sephiroth, Sephiroth disappears and tells Cloud to hold on to his hatred. Cloud then shakes it off and tells himself that he's seeing things perhaps due to the Mako fumes. When Cloud first encounters Aerith, Sephiroth appears again, creepily putting his hand on Aerith's shoulder, then tells Cloud that he's too weak to save anyone, including himself. Ironically, in a sense, Aerith saves him in that moment, allowing him to snap out of his headache. Compared to the original game, Sephiroth appears quite frequently in Remake Part 1. He next appears in Chapter 3, Home Sweet Slum, when Cloud investigates the noises next to his apartment. He believes he sees Sephiroth, but it is actually a man named Marco, a Sephiroth clone. Before Cloud is able to harm Marco, Tifa intervenes and Cloud snaps out of his hallucination. In Chapter 8, Budding Bodyguard, after Cloud falls down onto the Sector 5 church, Sephiroth appears in Cloud's dream, telling him that he is
"You're everything."
Sephiroth tells him there's still so much to be done, but then Aerith is able to wake him up. Later in Chapter 8, when Aerith runs to help another Sephiroth clone who collapses, the man grasps Cloud's arm, which causes him to have a headache. Sephiroth then appears and tells Cloud that the reunion is nothing to fear. Later in Chapter 13, A Broken World, Sephiroth appears to Cloud again after the Sector 7 plate drop. Cloud hears him say,
"Within my veins flows the blood of ancients. This planet is my birthright."
Sephiroth acknowledges to Cloud that he has failed again, but through suffering he will grow strong. Then he asks Cloud, "Isn't that what you want?" In Chapter 16, The Belly of the Beast, Sephiroth warps the Shinra VR presentation that they are seeing into a dark illusion, where Sephiroth clones attack Tifa and Barret, and a giant meteor falls onto Midgar. Suffice to say, Sephiroth makes many appearances in Remake Part 1 in the Midgar portion of the game, especially when compared to the original Final Fantasy VII. I think my initial reaction was that I thought it was a weird choice, simply for the fact that it was different. Change can be weird. Who likes change? There's a lot of fans who love Remake, but there's also a lot of people who don't like Remake simply for the fact that it isn't a one-for-one remake of the original. I'm not in that camp at all. I actually love Remake Part 1 very much. But when I first saw Sephiroth in Chapter 2 of the game, admittedly there was a part of me that kind of went, that's interesting, Sephiroth appears really early here. It's almost like comparing a book to a movie adaptation, where sometimes you think, hey, wait a minute, that didn't happen in the book, or vice versa. I feel that in regards to this first portion of the game, there's more mystery to Sephiroth in his absence in the original, because there's very little mention of him and no appearance either. Midgar in the OG FF7 feels almost like an introduction to the game, or a prologue, before Sephiroth finally appears in the Nibelheim flashback. The less you see of a character, the more mysterious they become, and by making many appearances in Remake Part 1, it kind of takes the mystery out of it a little bit. I understand that for this first installment, the developers needed to have a big bad in the game. Sephiroth is definitely a huge selling point, and to end the game with a Sephiroth fight makes sense from that standpoint. The entity that appears before Cloud in Chapter 2 of Remake Part 1 is already aware that Cloud is the one who killed him. While there's a lot of speculations whether these new installments are part of a remake or a sequel, there's almost like a Back to the Future feel to the whole game. There are hints that Sephiroth might be back to remake the timeline, or Aerith has returned to right the wrongs of the past. I like the Nibelheim flashback because it gives a concise explanation of what Cloud perceives to have happened to Sephiroth, how and why he went mad, and how he killed Cloud's mother and other townspeople, and then destroyed Nibelheim. We also get to see short glimpses of what Sephiroth was like before he went mad, how he was as a soldier, perhaps a friend to Cloud, rather than a monster or a legend. Whether we, as fans, will get to experience something similar to the Nibelheim flashback in the next installment of the remake is anyone's guess. Maybe we will get to play as Sephiroth, or maybe there will be a separate short film containing the Nibelheim flashback. Are you interested in seeing the Nibelheim flashback in the next part of the remake, or do you think they should just skip it? The more that I make these videos, the more that I feel we should treat the original Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake as separate entities. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy making these videos, comparing and contrasting the two games, and exploring different aspects in each of the games. I don't think we should stop doing that, but clearly they both are two completely different experiences, with 23 years and a whole lot of technology in between them. So I hope that players will be able to have an open mind while playing Remake, and simply because Remake is new or different from the original game that they love, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. So here's my question for you: how do you feel about the changes that they made to the character of Sephiroth in Remake Part 1 compared to the original? Do you like how he makes a lot of appearances in Midgar, or do you prefer the original where he doesn't appear until Kalm? Definitely let me know down in the comments. For other videos from Oddrummer Gaming, click or tap the screen. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you liked this video and you want to see more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Stay odd and keep on playing.